Across the Park podcast is proud to be sponsored by Globe Gas and Heating. For the best kitchen and bathroom renovations, boiler servicing and repair, and central and underfloor heating in the Northwest, head over to globecentralheating.com and quote Across the Park for a free quote.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Across the Park podcast. Myself and Millsy join you on a bank holiday Monday. Looking forward to hopefully a more positive week for the Blues. Before we start, thanks again to our marvellous sponsors, Globe Heating and Gas, supporting the podcast and helping myself and Millsy bring these episodes to you on a weekly basis. Unfortunately, we've not been able to get into the studio today. Apologies for that. Again, the children playing havoc with our lives, but now we've obviously got families, so we need to look after them first and foremost. So Millsy, we're 2 days removed from another defeat, another disappointing defeat, another game without a goal. It was Everton 0, Wolves 1. Anyone wants to catch our instant match reaction, that's available on our channel. But again, we are 2 days removed from that, Millsy. Now, has anything changed from your perspective? Anything from an outlook or anything when you've watched the game back?
Do you know what? It has, and I think that's why we do the instant match reaction, and that's why we then follow it up, because the instant match reaction is we haven't seen the highlights, we haven't seen what other people think. First and foremost, the remote show allows me to test my new mic out, so hope it sounds all right. But yeah, Judge, I'll be honest with you, my instant match reaction was that I thought particularly Amadou Onana was very, very poor. Now, on the eye, I didn't see him as busy as what I've seen him since in some highlight packages, and you know the Jan Juma chance in the first half, the one-on-one, was from Onana, transitioning play, winning the ball and making a through ball, which if Danjuma finishes that is a great piece of midfield play. So yeah, I do look at it a little bit differently in relation to individual performances. I still think that midfield three can probably not play together. It does need tweaking somehow. I do think the square pegs and round holes, and I do think, like we did say, that on another day, Everton would and should have won that game. The problem being is that we don't have goal scorers. But for me, I do view it a little bit differently. I'm not as frustrated. I'm not as angry as I probably would have been this time last season. And that's probably due to the window still being open. But what about you? Have you sat down with a cup of tea and thought about it and any different opinions on it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on the Onana influence, if you like. I still think he can be busier. I still think he plays in patches. I don't personally think that his performance on Saturday was any different than what we've seen. I think you see when he steps up a gear, he looks a better player than most of the players on the pitch, for us certainly anyway. And I think he can influence a game. And you're right, he could have easily had an assist had Danjuma put that away, and he gets a lot of credit then. But I still think that he goes missing for long periods, and that's not what we need from a player of his caliber who's got a lot of responsibility in that team. I think one thing that sticks out for me, and look, I'm putting myself up here again to be shot at, but it was a comment actually you made, or in fact Noah, your lad, made about how dominant Jose Sarr was in the area on Saturday, and I thought that was a big part of frustrating us. The amount of set plays we had, which Ashley Young admittedly wasn't at his best from set plays at the weekend, but there was a lot of balls into areas where last season and certainly a few seasons ago under Ancelotti, you'd seen players get on the end of them on the near post and put them in, and I thought Jose Sarr was excellent. Conversely, I don't think Jordan Pickford caught anything all afternoon. Now, look, they didn't put as many crosses into the box as us, but you look back at that goal and that ball's hanging for a long time in the air, and it ends up getting put in from close to 6 yards out. I've got to ask you the question, and look, everyone knows that I've been, I wouldn't say critical of Jordan Pickford, but I've questioned his, value to this team long term and whether we could have cashed in the summer. Do you think that Jose Sarr, if he was in the position Jordan Pickford was in for that goal, he takes that cross, or do you think it's simply poor defending?
No, look, I think if you swapped keepers on Saturday, you win the game. And I don't mean Jose Sarr on whole as a better goalkeeper than Jordan Pickford, because I do think we've got a really good goalkeeper there. But Sarr was man of the match. And Pickford, you're right, that ball hung for a very long time. And I think Tarkowski and Patterson, without being in their shoes, were maybe thinking, is the keeper going to come? The keeper's hesitated. That's caused confusion. There's a big striker in there. So, yeah, I do think you're right in relation to we can't come on and say that our best players will always have a man of the match performances. It doesn't work like that. And Jordan Pickford was arguably as much at fault for the goal on Saturday. And Jose Sarr, just to go back to your point of my little boy Noah, the insightful comment that my 5-year-old made was, "Daddy, why does this keeper keep catching all our crosses?" That was the insightful comment that he made, and it was frustrating. And the set piece part of it, judgy for me, was we didn't seem to veer from whatever that set piece plan was to get it in that 6-yard box. When it wasn't working, we kept doing it and kept doing it. I didn't even see Tarkowski take up a different position other than that back post position. There seems to be no plan B on the set pieces for me on Saturday, and that hurt us as well.
No, that's a good point, but I think actually you make a good point without realising it there. If you remember when Dyche first come in, he almost become renowned for that hanging back post cross. And I don't know if Ashley Young was not able to execute that at the weekend, or whether, as you say, it was a different game plan, but he didn't hit that back post once at the weekends. There wasn't one cross that went right to the far post and missed that goalkeeper out. So, maybe it is a case that the delivery was inaccurate, or as you're suggesting, maybe it's a case that he has a different game plan and we're not willing to or able to change it up.
Well, that's one thing that my mind hasn't changed on from Saturday, is I think we, as a team, whether it's the manager, whether it's the coaching, whether it's the entire thing, we seem quite resistant to change things. We got into panic mode with 5 minutes to go on Saturday. But, 50, 60, 70, 80 minutes, there seems to be reluctance to change, not just personnel, but the system. And even the system, I'll include the set piece takers in there. Why not switch James Garner onto a set piece? Or why don't we have plan B or plan C and a set piece from plan A is not working? Not only did we not get to grips with what Wolves were doing in the second half, I thought we could have changed little things there, but we didn't seem to change anything at all. And that's one thing that I haven't changed my mind on from Saturday's instant match reaction. I do think for whatever reason, we do struggle to sort of transition and change in game.
Yeah, I mean, just to move to another area of the pitch, I guess, but an area that we've been similarly blunt from, if you like, and that's the fullback positions. Ashley Young's had a decent start to his Everton career. It's fair to say he looks very comfortable in that position, but he's not really been able to have any influence on the game in the final third. Likewise, our promising, if you call it that, promising young fullback, Nathan Patterson, has come in for some criticism, unfortunately, from Evertonians. I say unfortunately because he's a young lad, and I don't think he's been fit since we've had him, to be fair, and he's probably getting close to that now. My opinion on Patterson's downfall. Listen, I'm not saying he's played well, but I think he's a victim of the system. What's your thoughts on Nathan Patterson's role in the team and his performances?
I think he's came into the club. If I'm Nathan Patterson, I'm now looking at, I've come into this club at completely the wrong time. Now, if you recall when we brought Seamus Coleman in, not for the value of money we brought Nathan Patterson in for, but Seamus Coleman got a really good loan out to a really good team in the Championship who got promoted. In an ideal world, when we brought Nathan Patterson in January 2022, he should have been loaned out for that 6 months to an English team and got to grips with it. Arguably now, if we were in a situation we were in and we could spend, and we were a team with more ambition and more promise to do things this season, maybe even still, you'd say to Nathan Patterson, it's not going to hurt you to go and play for a year somewhere else and make your mistakes there. Don't make them here. That's not the case. So Patterson is very, very, very quickly learning on the job what the English Premier League is. It's unforgiving. You make a mistake, and 9 times out of 10, you get punished for it. And unfortunately, and I do agree with you, that the system at the minute and the personnel playing in front of him doesn't help. I'd also say the same for Ashley Young. I don't think he's been helped by, he's had a kid on the left, he's had Danjuma sometimes, he's had, little transitions of play where different players have played in front of him. I think if Dwight McNeil was there for the first 3 games of the season, Ashley Young would probably be performing a lot higher. So I do think the victims of what's happening. But Patterson, I think he's full of promise, but I think unfortunately he's finding out that it is unforgiving. There's no one else really. Seamus Coleman done an article, an interview with the Irish press, and said he's another 6 to 8 weeks away. So we do have to, proceed with Patterson. The only alternative is, do you put Ashley Young there and bring Mikolenko back in?
Yeah, I mean, that was something that I was probably going to move on to when we come on to the Doncaster game on Wednesday, and maybe that's something the manager will look at. Before we do move on to that and move past the Wolves game, obviously it was another really disappointing performance from our centre forward, the person who was entrusted with that number 9 position. It's been Morpie in recent weeks. It was Danjuma at the weekend. He missed the chance when he came on against Fulham. He had chances against Villa, which I don't think they were, really blatant, or you could call them missed chances. I think they were half chances that he maybe would have hoped to have scored. At the weekend, there's no doubt for me that he's had 2, if not 3, fairly gilt-edged chances that you would like to think that a decent centre forward in the Premier League would take. Thoughts on his performance and I guess where that type of performance leaves him in Dyche's thinking.
I think I'd like to trust the manager and believe the manager. Now, after the game and also after the Villa game, he's talking about Danjuma not quite being where other players are. He's had a niggly injury in pre-season, and Danjuma was on his knees on 80 minutes on Saturday. He was knackered and he had to be removed. I'd like to think there's a little bit of that in this because he missed a really good chance in the second half against Fulham. You remember he came on, he got put through at the street ends, and there's one on the first half on Saturday as well where he's put through. And the keeper makes a good save, it hits the post. Should he have done better? I think so, one-on-one. So, in my opinion, he could have went round him.
He had the freedom of the park end there.
Absolutely. But look, what I will do at this minute in time is I'm not about to get on anyone's case. I'm going to trust the manager in the fact that Danjuma is not quite ready and we're just getting him up to pace. And I'd like to think that in 3 or 4 games' time, you'll see Danjuma as a wide attacking player or someone who may play off Dominic Calvert-Lewin or the guy I know you're going to get into in a minute, play off him and be a much better player for us. At the minute, to be fair, I don't think he's an isolated forward. He's not someone who can play by himself. He's maybe not used to those chances coming his way, used to playing a different way. But I would like to think that there's mitigation in that performance so far that he's not quite ready. And that's me trusting the manager.
Okay, well, before I do get on to Beto, I'm going to go on to another player who I think has come in for some generous comments from the manager in terms of his fitness, and that's Yusuf Chamiti. We were told before the game in the press conference that he's not ready to play, yet he did come in for half an hour. I thought personally that he gave us a different dimension. I thought he was looked a lot more comfortable in that central position. You could see him commanding the ball into his chest, into his feet. Thoughts on his display and whether there's promise there for you?
There's promise, but he's raw. Like I told you on Saturday, I sat in a family enclosure, so I could sort of see the game differently. His positional play was not brilliant for me, but he's a young forward. I think at times we were breaking and he was offside, and we had to hold back a little bit. And he was looking at where to go. All that will come with the young forward, but he did give us something different. You're absolutely right. He came on and he basically said, "Hit me and try and play off me." And one thing I did like about it is some people may not have seen this, but Dawson give him a push in the back, and we got a free kick, and he turned around and he gave Dawson that, and it was all the verbals, and that's a young guy coming in against a big British centre half, and some young strikers could be intimidated by that, but he stood up and said, "No, I'm going to fight you here," and he backed into him again, and he wanted the ball to him again. So the attitude is right. I think he's raw. I think we've all seen he's raw. He hasn't came on and he didn't look really, really ready. He looked like someone who could maybe at times this season give us something different. Again, I'm trusting the manager. I can see from that performance there's something there, but I wouldn't like to put him in starting Premier League games, to be honest with you.
No, that's fair enough. I think what I would say, and this, I think this is a credit to him. I agree with you on the natural aggression he's got. He just certainly doesn't shirk away from a challenge. He gave away a soft free kick and obviously got a yellow card for that. A little bit of frustration shown there. But there was a lot of time, probably 4 or 5 times last season that Ellis Sims came on with, 10 minutes to go and hardly touched the ball. He was heavily involved. He got on the ball a lot. I don't know exactly how many touches he had, but the fact that he was accessible in terms of players were able to find, but he was equally looking to get on the shoulder, and you could see he wanted to get in that area and get, on the back of the centre-back a lot. I think he's a player who could have an impact this season. Off the bench, maybe more so than starting, but definitely a lot of promise there. Okay, we'll moving on past the Wolves game, and I think we've kind of touched on where we feel we're not succeeding. Look, it's pretty obvious. We've said it so many times over the last week or so. If you don't score, you're going to put yourself under pressure, and invariably we're coming under pressure. And I think we're looking a lot more anxious because we don't look like we've got a goal in us. But it looks like, and again, I've got 2 fingers crossed. I've got my toes crossed, my legs crossed here. It looks like we've broke through in terms of bringing in what you would say is closer to a replacement for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, or certainly a forward who's able to deputise for Calvert-Lewin when he's not playing, and that's Beto from Udinese. I know, admittedly, Mills, you don't know much about him, but just the prospect of that, just give me your initial thoughts.
Yeah, look, we're crying out for a striker that fits his profile, and his profile is a big man up front. But when I've read about him, look, I'll be honest with you, I've only seen the reels, and the reels can make Umanias look good. I've seen the reels, and there looks to be a lot of talent in there. You look at the specifics. To score 1 and 3 in Serie A, it's no mug, really, is it? I mean, if players come from Holland, then maybe sometimes you have doubts. Not so much from Serie A. I think that's a step up to do it in Serie A. I think he was linked with Juventus at times last season as well. There's obviously a player there. I'll admit I don't watch a lot of them. So what I do want to do is spin it on you, because I know you watch an awful lot of football for your job and things. What do you think Beto will bring to us? Because it needs to be goals. Is that part of it?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, he's a man who's got a lot of self-confidence, self-belief. You'll see that you can see that from the reels. There's loads of flicks in there. He's a good link man, above all else. He's a very unselfish player. I think you could probably add another 5 or 6 goals to both of those returns in the last 2 seasons if you've been a little less, a little less unselfish. I think he's a player who relishes playing alongside other players with him, and I think that's the initial concern. You don't see a lot of, when he's playing for Udinese, he either had, Dele Alli playing off him or other players like that, either side of him. So they play a lot with a 4-2-3-1, which I think you'd probably give him a tick there. Dyche likes that type of system in terms of having one forward, having players around him, but staying fairly narrow. I don't think he'll have a problem with that. I think he's a very accomplished finisher, but he can be a little bit messy at times in there. He's not clinical all the time. Do you know what he does remind me of a little bit? And obviously it's very topical given the game yesterday, and I don't want to bring them up on this podcast, but Darwin Núñez, very similar to that in terms of he can look a little bit clumsy at times, but he's clearly very strong, very quick. Sometimes he can hit a very clean ball and it goes in the bottom corner. Other times he can look a little bit scruffy. He'll definitely get opportunities. He's definitely a lot stronger and physical than any man we've got at the club in that position at the moment. Is he best than Calvert-Lewin? I think he can be, but we won't know, I don't think, until he comes into the Premier League. He's only 25. Again, as you say, to score the rate of goals he scored in Serie A, not many players get more than 20 goals in Serie A ever. I think on the average around 16, 17 is the leading goal scorer in that league, and he's gone in around 10, 11, 12, I think, in the last...
Yeah, his past two seasons, he was 11 and 28 and 10 and 33.
Yeah, so listen, I think we've got a player there who's got... Listen, that's as good a ratio, if not better than... Well, certainly better than Calvert-Lewin has achieved on most seasons. Calvert-Lewin's best season was slightly better than that, but his other seasons were not quite hitting those levels. And we're also talking about the team in Udinese who don't score that many goals. They're not a huge, they're not like a Napoli. They're certainly not a top 6, top 7. I mean, they're there or thereabouts. The top half, middle table, if you like, mid-table. So he's not a player who's blessed with getting 5, 6, 7 chances a game. What I will tell you, and I'll put my neck on the line here, if he'd have been in that team for the first 3 games of the season, he'd definitely be on 2 goals at least. I've got no doubt about that. So, look, I'm excited by it. I'm just really hope now we can just get the deal done. Get it done. Get him in. If you can be in that squad, I mean, it's a long shot. But if you can be in that squad, but at least be sitting in the crowd for that Doncaster game, I think that gives the whole team a lift. I think it gives him an opportunity to just kind of see, because that's going to be a proper, and we'll come on to it in a moment, the Doncaster game is going to be a proper, good old-fashioned English cup tie. I think Doncaster are going to make it difficult for us. But I think he's going to see what he's up against to a certain extent. There's not a great deal of attacking quality at the moment in that Everton team until the likes of McNeil come back, until we get Danjuma fit, playing in a position where he can help out the forwards. But listen, I think if you get, going back to that, if you get McNeil fit, if you get Danjuma in there, them two alongside him or a Calvert-Lewin, I think that's a forward line that gets you a hell of a lot more goals than the prospect of what we've got now does.
No, I'm with you. The only thing I will say, I'll repeat myself, is he's got to come in and hit the ground running. I don't want to hear the manager saying he's not Dyche fit. I don't want to hear the manager saying he's not ready. He's obviously had a full pre-season with Udinese. I think for me, if you get this over the line, he starts on Saturday. But I know we're going to get there. Judge, I was reading our socials. You invited some questions on there, so I just want to ping some questions at you from our socials and get some quick reaction from you. This one's from Carlos on Twitter. It's an interesting, this one, really. He says, Dyche doesn't seem to have any relationship with the supporters, which in turn, in my opinion, doesn't help him. He doesn't seem to try to connect. The best manager relationships for me are managers who connect with fans, Moyes, Carlo, Martinez, not the likes of Koeman and Dyche. In turn, it didn't help Koeman and it won't help Dyche. Interesting for you. Does Sean Dyche have a relationship with Evertonians?
I think he's got a respect from Evertonians, and I think he was dead open and honest, and that was almost the first thing he said when he came in. Look, I'm going to take the emotion out of this. I'm going to get down to brass tacks. I'm going to make this team better. I'm going to get them back to the basics that Evertonians are used to in terms of, being aggressive on and off the ball, and putting in a performance and basically doing the hard yards. I wouldn't put him anywhere near the Koeman. Absolutely not. I actually wouldn't even put him near Marco Silva. I think he's respectful of the fans, and I think at the moment there's that mutual respect. I think he's got the respect of the fans because he dug us out of that last season. The points tally wasn't fantastic, but there's no doubt in my mind if he doesn't come in when he does last season that we're playing in the Championship this season. So I agree with him. I agree with Carlos. I think I agree in the sense that he's not the personality of a Jurgen Klopp, if you like, in terms of always trying to push the buttons of the fans and get them involved. He maybe hasn't got the charm of an Ancelotti, but I don't think he's trying to do that, and I don't think he ever did at Burnley. And I think at Burnley it was the same. The fans knew what they were going to get from him. They knew he was honest and hardworking. They knew he was always putting as much effort as he possibly could to make that team better within his own means. And I don't think you could ever say that was Ronald Koeman. Ronald Koeman was, almost notorious for turning up a training half an hour late, leaving early, not really being bothered about what the players are eating, how they're training, etc., and just rocking up on a Saturday and being that man in the dugout. I don't think for a second that's Sean's out. So definitely very different to some of the managers that Carlos has mentioned there. But I don't think that's a problem. I don't think it's going to stop him from being as successful as he can be with this group of players, which, to be fair, is probably just keeping us in the league for the next season or two.
I'll take you. Tom on Twitter, he said, it'd be great if you could discuss the midfield options, which I think we have done, but he's put a direct question, or two direct questions here. Is Onana vastly underrated? And is Decore overrated? Really enjoy listening. Keep up the great work.
It could be the other way around for me in terms of the current team at the moment. I think the expectation on Onana is high. I don't think he's underrated. I think for the neutral, in terms of other fans around the league, they watch him, in the big games on Sky, and I think he always tends to stand out because of his physicality. I think he's slightly overrated in the sense that he doesn't produce enough with that physicality, and that's what is frustrating for us Evertonians. Now, you'd probably flip that and make the point that you made at the start of the show. If we've got a forward who's putting chances away, maybe his stats go through the roof quite quickly in terms of chances created and assists and all that stuff. But I think I look back to that Southampton game last season where he gets on the end of that corner and scores a header, and I'm thinking, here we go. This is going to start it now. He's going to be in that area on a regular basis, getting amongst the goals, making it, causing headaches. The fact of the matter is, Sean Dyche had to turn to Decore last season to be that player, and he stepped up. So I don't think Decore is overrated. I think if anything, Decore is probably done more for this team than Onana has, and I think he continues to do that. On Saturday, he was full of running. He was, taking risks. He was getting in behind the defence. I don't know if the manager's telling Onana to not do that, but certainly if I'm a player like Onana who's got the ability to, I'd be trying to take that game with a scruff of the neck a little bit more like Decore was at the weekends, and I don't think the manager would knock him for that if he did. So I think it's a little bit, in my opinion, it's a bit of a flip. Listen, I can see how we can see it that way, but for me, that's where I see it at the moment. We need more from Onana. I certainly think in the first few games we haven't seen the best of Decore either, but I think he's probably another person who's missing that focal point up there.
Everton Picks on Instagram, they've said, when he's fit, do you think Dele Alli would work as a 10 off Beto? We could then play Decore deeper with James Garner, and it would help us control the game more.
If we've got a fit and firing Dele Alli, what a difference that would make. I mean, it's I wouldn't say it's the $1 million question at the moment in terms of is he going to come back and is he going to come back fit, because he's almost, I'm going to say the forgotten man, but I don't think anyone's really hanging any hopes on him right now. But if you allow yourself to wonder and you allow yourself to dream almost, Dele Alli gets himself fit and he gets himself anywhere near the player he was at Tottenham. What an incredible asset he could be for this team and this club. Yeah, look, I don't think you could say no, could you? If and again, I alluded to it before. You look at when Beto has been at his best for Udinese, when he's had his best performance, when he scored his goals, nearly all of them are him linking up with players. And he is going to need that number 10, if you like, behind him to feed him and to feed off him and vice versa. So, yeah, we absolutely need someone like that, whether it's him, whether it's a McNeil, whether it's a Danjuma. We certainly need to fill that pocket with someone to get the best out of Beto, definitely.
Do you know what? I'd love it if we could get Dele Alli back to 70% of what he was, and Beto hits the ground running. It's a whole new dynamic, isn't it? Helen on Twitter, she said a flat-out question: do you think Farhad Moshiri should be attending games and fronting up the situation at the moment?
That's a loaded question, isn't it? Because you're asking, do we think he should as fans, or do
I assume there's no Sharp and there's no Baxter, there's no Ingles. We believe that Ken Wright maybe not too good at the moment, and he wasn't going last year anyway. Moshiri's possibly in a different category, isn't he? To those, should he be standing there at the first game of the season in the main stands up front there?
Look, I think so. Yeah, I think any owner in that position, in the position the club's in, where there's so much doubt over various different things, I don't see when I think the issue he's got, if we're going to be honest, and if you try and play devil's advocate here, I don't think he knows what the next step is and what potentially investments come, whether it's not. He knows that if he turns up, he's just going to get pelted with questions and accusations, and and I don't think that type of negativity and that sideshow helps the team right now. I think if and when there's some clarity over investment, then I'd like to say yeah, because he's the person then that we're expecting answers from. Now, I would probably suggest that the reason why he's not here now is he wants rid and he's trying to sell the club actively.
Agree.
And therefore, why turn up and be in that room? So I think that's probably where it is, rather than him being reluctant because of any other reason. I think he's just actively trying to sell the club. I think he's got no interest really in what's going on the pitch at the moment, because it's not at the critical end of the season. It's not really affecting the sale price. So I think he's behind the scenes, working at that rather than actually being bothered about being in the ground itself.
Two more, and then we'll move on. The first one's a bit of a nice one, and I won't say no to it. Adam on Twitter said, "Boys, where do you both drink at the game? I'd love to come and say hello and buy you both a cold bottle of beer. Thanks for all the great content."
That's amazing. Yeah, look, it's
we don't drink together. It's me and Judge have been mates for 25 years, but at the game we have different itineraries, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, the bigger games we'll go to Black Horse, won't we, earlier, and then work our way down. We don't generally go to the same pub. I mean, I make it my dad, and that's the reason you live one end, don't you? I live the other end. My dad lives near the Wetherspoons on Walton Road, and Millsy frequently goes there quite early. He's known to have an 11 or 12 o'clock breakfast, whereas I'll come from Crosby, go to my dad's at around 1 and slowly make my way up to the ground. But listen,
you're looking for a night out, aren't you, more than a day out? You're looking to see who's going into.
I just prefer, for me, I'll get there, have a pint or two before the game, have one at half time, and win, lose or draw. I think if you have a few pints after the game, you get all that off your chest. Whereas you spend all Saturday night being frustrated, fuming on WhatsApp, fuming on Twitter, and then you carry that into Sunday. Whereas I'll have a few pints, it'll brush off my back, and I'm kind of over it then. But to answer the listener's question, look, you tell us where you are, mate, and we'll happily come and have a drink with you anytime.
Yeah, come find me before the game, find Judge after it. That's your best plan. The last one, Judgy, is Daily on Twitter. Probably a bit of a deep question, really. The atmosphere at Goodison, barring Bournemouth, Palace, and the derby last season, has been awful for 2 years now. This year's feeling even worse. The fans are just walking out before full time and not even reacting. Everybody seems to feel drained. Do you think that some fans are now at the point of just giving up on going the game? It's miserable at the moment being an Evertonian.
Wow. from do you want to have a pint? I can't wholly disagree with him, but I don't completely agree either. I thought the atmosphere at the start of the game, and obviously it was fueled with a bit of emotion. Obviously, a lot of emotion around Michael Jones, and the fans were really keen to show their respect and also gratitude or whatever for his role as an Evertonian and show the love for him. So I guess there was mitigating circumstances there, but I don't know. I think that the fans at Goodison, apart from the rare exception, always start off with the intention of getting on the front foot and getting behind the team. But it's just very rarely been matched by a positive, start from the team and a goal, even better. I think on Saturday, if we'd have scored early, Dan Juma scores that chance, I think Goodison would have been rocking all afternoon. I really do. I think if Tarkowski scores that goal on the 26th minute, which would have been amazing, then again, I think Goodison would have been rocking. I think there's been a culmination of things over the last 12 to 18 months, but the biggest factor has been the poor displays and at times inept, work rate as well from the players, and it don't, not looking like they really care. Good, Everton fans are a very simple breed. If you put the work in and you go above and beyond on off the ball, certainly you'll get gratitude from the fans, and you'll certainly get us trying as hard as we can to help you. I mean, even at the weekend, it's 0-0 at half time. The fans were disappointed. There wasn't a boo or insight. It was like frustration. I think I think that word's a big one. There's a lot of frustration around. I think I agree with the comments he made around you. There is a feeling of despondence at times, but how can you blame us? I think many teams in the Premier League or fans could get themselves up consistently for the whole game when they've seen what we've seen over the last, certainly 12 to 18 months.
It's been a long period of frustration, hasn't it? We've had if you look back since Moyes left, now Moyes was a good era. Was it a golden era? No, but it was a good era. And then you had since then, I think Martinez had a season where it was good. We were locked down for Carlo, but I enjoyed being an Evertonian at that time, watching that team, and that was good. And apart from that, he said miserable there. It has been quite miserable. So I do think there's.
We had a question about the manager. If the manager plays a role in that, I thought Koeman has a decent spell, and he has an opportunity to maybe kick in. But
that's fair, yeah.
He didn't come with that personality. I think if Koeman was to grasp that as a person and really tried to run with it, and then he obviously got stitched by the recruitment. So, I think there's been, again, we go on about the recruitment. The recruitment's been so poor, even when we've had the chance to kick on. Like we did under Carlo, we had the chance to kick on. We obviously lost the manager. We had the chance under Koeman to kick in. We didn't get the recruitment. I think there's been so many almost false dawns, and that really hurts, doesn't it, to fans when we feel we played our part, the manager or the players have played their part, and then one of that team, if you like, in terms of manager, fans, players, recruitment team, has let the rest down. It just hasn't really come together for a good 5-6 years, and that's hard to take as fans when it's out of your control.
Yeah, that's all I've got, Judgy. There was a number of more questions, but they're very similar to those. So thanks everyone for bringing the social media questions to us. We are at Across the Park PC on Instagram and Twitter.
Okay, so just briefly moving on then, Millsy, we've got obviously a cup tie coming up. I guess you could say it's a welcome break from league action, but it's a game that certainly the TV have billed as a potential upset, and you can't blame them for that. So it's Doncaster away on Wednesday. I'll be there, as always. I'm sure that I know we've sold out our allocation, so there'll be an army of Everton fans looking desperate for a goal. Where do you sit with the approach to this game now? My head is telling me, and my logic is telling me that Sean Dyche will ring the changes and think, look, this is not the season maybe that we need a prolonged run in the League Cup with a shoestring squad. But my heart and my desire is telling me, go and put a strong team out there, with the exception of a few changes. Go and win the game, go and get a few goals, get a bit of confidence in that team, and let's move on from there. Where do you sit in those two camps?
Don't mess with the team. Don't mess with it, especially the centre-halves pairing. Now you've got Tarkowski playing with Branthwaite for the first time on Saturday gone. Don't disrupt that now. Don't take the keeper out of it either. I know there's temptation there to probably pay, João Virginia. I wouldn't. I would keep the keeper and the back two the same. I would possibly rest Ashley Young and bring Vitaly Mykolenko in. I think if you look at
for Ashley Young to get injured,
no, you can't. And if you look at our bench on Saturday, there's not a lot of options really. Would you bring Onyango in? I think that would be a risk. Would you bring Tom Cannon in? No, because he's probably going to leave the football club now. Neil Maupay, I wouldn't have him anywhere near it. Michael Keane, again, going back to my first point. So I do think the team sort of picks itself. The only real question would be, would you play Chimiti? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't risk the fact that he has not only a knock. I wouldn't risk it. I really wouldn't. Now, Chimiti, for me, if you can go 2-0 up in this game and you bring him on shooting towards the way end, I think that's what I would do. I would play Danjuma, hoping Danjuma gets a goal, and I'll be honest, Judge, I would not mess with it much at all.
I think Chimiti's nailed on to start. I think Chimiti and Danjuma will start the game. I think.
And take Dobbin out.
No, I think Dobbins, Danjuma and Chimiti will be the front three. I think you'll
James
go
Garner.
with
James Garner out.
No, I would put James into the middle. I think it's a chance to maybe play him in that central position. I was half thinking, considering that I maybe play on Yongo. I think Hanana will come out personally. I think he's another player that we probably can't afford to lose right now. I think he's another player, whether we like it or not, that certain clubs will see as a last-minute opportunity to bring the player in that could influence their team. So I think there'll be a temptation for every reason to take Hanana out. I'd like to see James Garner in the middle of the pitch. I think against an opposition at that level, I think he can run the game. I think he's got the potential to do that. I'd play him as the 6. I'd probably leave Garner in, but play him a little bit more advanced. I'm allowed to press on a little bit further up the pitch with Decore. I'd take Hanana out. I'd play the front 3 of Danjuma, Dobbin, and Chimiti. Try and take the game to them. Try and be as physical, strong as we can. Get on the front foot, get the ball up to Chimiti, get those 2 quick, lively players alongside him, and try and get the game won. And then hopefully bring Chimitis off at 60 minutes, bring Danjuma off at 60 minutes, bring the Morpays and whatever on to just see the game out. But I'm with you. I'd like to see us go and win the game. I'd definitely give Mykolenko some minutes. I think Patterson needs minutes in a game where he can go and bomb on and get forward and get up and support the attacking players. That would be me for Wednesday.
I think there'll be a temptation for him to mix it up, and I hope he doesn't. I can see, now despite my opinion, I could see him playing Ben Godfrey and Michael Keane. I could see him playing Virginia. I could probably see him playing on Yango. I just wouldn't do it. I think it's too big of a banana skin.
And it's also, I just think it's welcoming further pressure, unnecessary further pressure from the media. He's already, favourite to be sacked first now, which, look, it means nothing. I think as Evertonians, we know the club have not got, 1, the backbone, or 2, the options or the ability to sack him right now. I think it's a very naive one from the bookies to be having him as favourite. It's just the fact that we're bottom of the league right now. But I think it's a good chance for him to get a victory, to get some confidence, to progress in a competition, and to bring a little bit of faith back to, if you like, to his, his regime. And I agree with you. My head's telling me that he will ring the changes, but I really hope he doesn't.
For me, I'll just go with let's hope Everton put a really good performance in, and whoever plays up front, whether it's Danjuma or whether it's Chimiti, a couple of goals for either one of them. Just be so welcome right now. Not that this is a huge game to win. It's more of a huge game not to win. I think we could win this 1-0 or 4-0. It wouldn't matter. Just don't not win it. But the perfect scenario for me, Judgy, would be a nice 2 or 3-0 win and a striker getting a couple.
Yeah, 100%. So just with that brief prediction from you.
Yeah, I'll go 2-0 Everton, a goal either half, and just a nice night on Wednesday. But I've jinxed myself there, haven't I?
Yeah,
you're going down, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, Doncaster don't know much. They've had a good start to the season, and it's a difficult place for teams in their league to go. I think they'll score, but I think they might score when we're 2-0 up. So I'm going to go 2-1.
The difficult one to preview is Saturday. I don't think we touch it too much. What I will say is that we've booked in a preview show, which I know our listeners and followers do like. It's with Hal from the Sheffield United Way. We're going to release that on Thursday. We're going to record it after the Doncaster game on Thursday, so it's all relevant. And there may be a chance, Judgy, possibly, if we do some bits in the window, we'll do another show.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. Hopefully, listen, I say hopefully, it's just vital, isn't it? Look, I said it the other day. I'm not sure if I actually said it in the match reaction, but if it didn't, I'll say it now. We don't do some business, and what I mean by that, if we don't get that deal done for Beto and another, if not 2 players, this team's going down for me. And I'm sorry to say that. I know we're missing Dwight McNeil at the moment. I know we're missing John McCallum at the moment, but that team's too toothless to stay in this league. I think, despite there being 3 teams that on paper are worse than us, I still think those teams at the moment have probably got more identity and more idea of how they might get points than our current squad has.
Couple of names linked just before you do go. I know we've both got stuff to do. You've got a sick house, and I've got a little boy, which I'm taking to the Bootle Books today. So 2 names linked, Danny Ings and Sulemana from Southampton. Would you take either or both?
Look, I'd love to take both. I think both of them walk into that team at the moment. Obviously, if we're bringing Beto in, maybe Danny Ings, not every week, but Danny. I mean, what I do know about Danny Ings, and this is via someone else I know, that is that he really loved playing under Dyche, and he's got a good relationship with him. I think it was one of his better periods, one of his more injury-free periods as well. I think he'd jump at the chance to come back to the Northwest. So I think there's a lot of legs in that one. The Sulemana one, I just think it's a matter of the money. I'm not sure we've got the cash up front to get that one done. I think would bring so much to the squad to get those three players in. You've got one player in Danny Ings who genuinely, is a goal scorer. We know that from first hand. He scored so many goals against Everton down the years, even when he's not been scoring himself. But he's got genuine goal scoring pedigree. Sulemana is out and out pace, and he's got so much potential. I think Thelwell wise, in terms of the players he's been picking up and trying to sign, he ticks that box. Chimiti, very much like that. A lot of potential, a lot of pace and physicality. Sulemana, again, another player with that type of profile, but also has got sell-on value. I think Ings is one for now, though, isn't he? We keep saying it. It's great, all his potential. We need someone who's going to bag goals now. I've got a feeling that the Ings one was probably an inquiry that we made before we progressed with the Beto one. I can't see both of them personally coming in. I think it would be one or the other, and I think Sulemana is probably the player that they want to bring in alongside a forward.
Yeah, they fancied him in January, didn't he? Suleiman, they went for both him and Danjuma. That would be really strange to now all of a sudden get both in the summer because it hasn't worked for those respective. And just again, before we do go, outgoings are important, aren't they? Because you don't want to get into next season and we're breaching all these things again. For me, if you can maybe move Andre Gomez and Neil Maupay on, what I will say about Maupay is my personal opinion, again, from where I was sitting on Saturday and watching him, he doesn't want to be there. There was no high fives from him to the subs coming off. Lewis Dobbin came off and they all hugged him and he sat there. When he was warming up, he didn't acknowledge the fans. He was looking for his family in the stands. When the manager called Tom Cannon at the end and Maupay was warming up, he rolled his eyes. He doesn't want to be there. If you can move him on, I would. And just for the figures that he's on, Andre Gomez needs to leave as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's going to happen, isn't it? I think the later it gets, probably the less of his wages that we would accept, being paid by the other team. But I think even if, the team he goes to on loan ends up paying 50, 60 grand of his wages, it's still a bit of a saving. And as you say, it still takes a bit of the pressure off the financial fair play side of it. It would be brilliant for us if we could get more payouts, even on loan. I don't think his wages are as high as some of the other players. So I don't think there'll be too much of a problem for some of the teams that are in the top league. So hopefully that can get done as well.
My glass of red on Friday nights will be Sky Sports News and not Gogglebox.
Nice one. Listen, thanks everyone for tuning in. As Millsy said, we've got the preview show coming up with Sheffield United on Thursday. Was it, sorry?
The Sheffield's Way, Hal from the Sheffield's Way. Big fan channel over at Sheffield United and really good lads as well. So Hal from Sheffield United Way is coming on.
Superb. And as Millsy said, we'll maybe bring you some, updates or breaking news, if you like, if and when we make some signings, because they'll be as big for the club as the upcoming games. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Enjoy the last of your bank holiday weekend and up the fucking toffees.